Now, I seriously doubt that many of you guys are going to care about this, but I have a huge, a major, a serious, a deep-running problem with the way that Jason Momoa portrays Aquaman in the DC Extended Universe. So let's talk about that real quick. Now, Aquaman is one of those characters that people don't talk about in the comics because he's considered to be lame, which I don't think is true. I mean, he can water bend, he can communicate with animals, sea animals, which doesn't seem intimidating, but imagine this huge tsunami filled with orcas and sharks is just coming at you. What do? You don't do anything. You die is what you do. But they think that because he's not so popular that they can just kind of augment him and they won't upset anybody. The reason Aquaman still exists in the comics is because he caught on. Some people decided they like him. He didn't kind of fall off like, Mr. Miracle or Static Shock did, which is unfortunate, but that's exactly what happened to those characters. They just didn't catch on the way they were supposed to. Not even an animated series could save Static Shock. But Aquaman has fans, myself included. I think Arthur Curry is a great character when he's done correctly. And how do you do him correctly? Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Now, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, in the comics. But here's the thing about that. The comics influence the animations, the movies, the TV shows that come out of it. So you can't just absolutely abandon your source material and expect it to still work. The thing about Aquaman that made him interesting in the first place is that he's not a fan of the human race. They pollute the ocean, which is where he lives, and with that, it kind of damages his way of life. It damages his people. It's harmful to him. So he basically just pieces off to Atlantis and keeps himself there, letting the surface dwellers destroy themselves over the course of time. But in any well-written Justice League story, Arthur will decide that it's best for the people of Atlantis to side with the surface dwellers in the situation, because if he doesn't, then the entire world will be destroyed, which includes the ocean. He can't let that happen, so if he's going to try to protect themselves, he's going to go for it. And it's typically really cool because Aquaman's got a lot of powers. He's cool. But they took him from being this, I don't like you surface dwellers, but I will help you for the good of the oceans. And they turned him into, dress like a bat. I dig it. It's like, in Justice League, he was like kind of sort of this nonchalant and also altruistic type of character, which doesn't make any sense. Why does he have this obligation to protect people, but he also rejects everything about his home? It doesn't make any sense. And then the dialogue was really clunky in that scene. I'm not going to keep talking about Justice League. But the thing is, they're getting Aquaman horribly wrong. They're doing the same thing to Aquaman that they did to Thor in Ragnarok, where it's like, he's a fish out of water, no pun intended, type of character. And for some reason, they don't think that that dynamic works when all it takes is, a little bit of writing creativity, and it'll work pretty well, the way it has for the last 65 years, but let's not get into that, I guess. 'Cause you're the last of a dying breed! For some reason, they think that because he's that type of character, what they need to do in order to make him interesting is completely change him to where he's unrecognizable. That can work when it's a character literally nobody cares about who's actively lame in the comics, like Blade, but Blade's a solo character. He doesn't have a dynamic with a team that makes him work the way that he works. Aquaman works because of the Justice League, because he has that dynamic of not fitting in and not wanting to be a part of it. That's what makes Aquaman interesting. So when you change that, you change the way that the entire Justice League works. I'm not even going to get into the rest of the characters. I'm sure I'll do them eventually, but the thing about Aquaman, you don't even get a showcase of his powers in Justice League. You get that he can swim underwater. You get that he can breathe underwater, I guess, but he can't communicate underwater because they have to make an airboat. Anyway, and you get that he can kind of control water, and he's strong. That's like half of Aquaman's powers, and they don't even display them very... That's like half of Aquaman's powers, and they don't even display it very well in the film. It's like, just try. I'm like willing to plead with Warner to get one of my favorite DC characters right. They screwed up the Flash, they screwed up Aquaman. Get Green Lantern right, please. That's all I want, dude. You screwed it up last time. Strike it from the canon. Do it again. Cast like Armie Hammer or somebody. I don't know. But they've taken Aquaman's dynamic and they've pretty much destroyed it. I don't want to say ruined because that word means nothing when it comes to criticizing something. but they've augmented the Aquaman character to a point where he's unrecognizable to true fans, like myself. I've read Jeff Johns' Aquaman run. I find Aquaman to be very interesting. I just don't find Jason Momoa's Aquaman to be interesting, mainly because he has no emotional range. He's like, yo, what's up? The entire movie. He has no dynamic motives, and without having any dynamic motives, he's just a placeholder character. He was there because the Justice League has Aquaman. That's the only reason. He doesn't add to the story at all. I think he actually kind of detracts from it sometimes. But all in all, they've absolutely just dismantled Aquaman on the molecular level and put it back together inside out. And I'm not a fan of that. Thank you for listening to me ramble about Aquaman, though, because Lord knows I never script these things before I start talking. But if you like my opinions, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're new here. I would also appreciate it if you leave a like and a comment and share it around with your friends if you like it enough. We're so close to 100 subscribers, man. And if we get there, if we get to 100, then I'm going to do a giveaway of something and I'm going to do a Q&A. So when that happens, I'm definitely going to be posting an update video about that. You can leave your questions on my Twitter or whatever you want to leave them, and I'll read them all of them, I promise. And this video has run far too long.